Miles McPherson is the pastor at the Rock Church, and he's here this morning to help us remember Chuck Muncie. Good morning, Miles. How are you?
Morning. Doing good today.
Yeah?
It's sad that you have to explain to people who Chuck Muncie is. Because I started calling my office saying, look, I want to talk about Chuck Muncie. He was a friend. And they said, who's Chuck Muncie? I'm thinking, you're kidding me.
I know.
And so for all the people out there who know Chuck Muncie, you know he was a beast. He was ahead of his time.
He really was. I mean, because Chuck was a really big guy. I remember watching Chuck as a kid, and what I remember is, kind of the strange face mask and the glasses underneath the helmet. But when I first had a chance to meet Chuck here in San Diego, I was shocked. I'm like, you're Chuck Muncie? And he was a big guy to be this fast running back. I mean, he really was a guy whose body type was ahead of his time, like you said.
He was 6'3", 6'4", 220, 230, and Doug Wilkerson, number 63 in the picture there, that was his roommate, and he was his bodyguard. And so in practice, Doug would be in front of him, and they would run, and you could feel literally the ground shake when they went by. He was ahead of his time. To be that big and that fast, he was the kind of back you would see today.
He was a guy, though, who, and there's a lot of NFL films that you get to kind of know a little bit about his personality. When he was here, maybe you could tell us a little bit more about it. He really enjoyed the Southern California lifestyle to the point where, Miles, maybe he enjoyed it a little too much because it maybe created the end of his football career a little too soon.
Well, Chuck is a happy-go-lucky. That's not Chuck.
No, that's you, pal. There you are.
Look at that. I was like 12 years old. Chuck was. He was happy to be alive. I mean, my fondest memories of him after he played and after he got off the drugs and got through all the problems, because his heart is a heart of gold, and he was helping kids. He was loved everybody. He was happy to be alive, always laughing, always positive. That was the Chuck we knew. His nickname to us was Money, because Money rhymes with Muncie, and he was very dependable. We gave him the ball, so we called him Money. And Money was just, you just wanted to be around him because he was so happy all the time and so positive.
You talk about a freaky sort of an athlete, though. Billy Ray used to tell me stories, and I know this is kind of one of the famous Chuck Muncie stories, that Don Coryell called him and said, "We hear you're getting out of shape. You better get over here and show us that you're not." He pulls up because he was annoyed that he had to be, working out in the off season. He pulled up in his car. He's smoking a cool cigarette. He gets out of the car. He stretches out a little bit, and he ran like a 4.5 40. And Coach Coryell went, "Okay, I guess you're doing all right."
Yeah, we didn't work. I worked out, but working out back then was not like it is today. There were a lot of guys who didn't work out. They just showed up. We didn't have mandatory workouts. We didn't have trainers or anything like that. So he was one of those guys who just came out and was naturally gifted. Yes, and without the problems, he would have played a lot longer, would have been in the Hall of Fame. I hope the Chargers induct him into the Charger Hall of Fame because he was a Hall of Fame player for us.
How do you think, because we've heard your story, I mean, people who go to the Rock Church, I mean, literally thousands and thousands of people every Sunday, and so many hundreds of ministries. So, I mean, you've got a lot of influence, and part of your story of having your own demons has been inspirational for a lot of the people there at the church. How did Chuck go from star player to a guy who kind of hit rock bottom and had to go serve jail time to then coming out of jail and leading a life of helping other people? How did that whole thing happen?
I didn't know. I met Chuck in 1982, and we played 2 years and a couple of games together because he left the team, if I remember correctly, in the beginning of the year. I don't really know how he got into it, and I didn't party with him. I was doing cocaine with my own little group. I just know him after, and I knew him after, and the whole time he's a guy with a big heart. He's a guy who loves to help people. He just got caught up like I did in the wrong stuff. Luckily, he came through it, and he was able to become the person that God made him to be someone to help people. So I really can't say how he got into it because I don't know.
But 60 years old.
That's young, as a baby.
Right. I mean, 60 years old is a very, very young guy, and you start thinking to yourself, okay, heart attack. You think all the hard living that he must have done as a much younger guy is you're feeling the consequences of that when you get to 60 years old.
Yeah, when you're young, and this is a message to all the young people, you feel invincible, and you can do all the things you want to do, anything you want to do, but you can't. It's going to catch up to you. And I abused my body when I was young, so I'm trying to redeem the time by staying in shape now. But life is short. I mean, a year ago, a couple weeks ago, Junior died. And life is so quick, and I think I want to encourage people to, grab some of the people you love and give them a hug and tell them you appreciate them and tell them you love them.
Yeah, I've been reading a lot from Chuck Muncie's family, you know, and they all seem to be so proud of what he did with his life, right? I mean, again, from being a star player to reaching the lows of drugs and jail, and then the way he came out of jail and lived the rest of his life helping other people. I think his family had a lot to be proud of.
Yeah, he lived a good life, and he finished strong. We're going to have a memorial service at the Rock May 25th. 2 Saturdays, and we'll get more information next week on that, but just to give people a heads up, and hopefully some of his friends will come from out of town and honor him.
Yeah, friends and teammates, because, you know, he was a regular around town. I mean, anytime there was a charity golf tournament, or anytime, you know, one of the former Charger players was doing something charitable, he was always here in town. I mean, I cannot even begin to tell you that there are certain guys that, I mean, I was growing up on the East Coast, and there was nothing better than it being 4 o'clock on the East Coast. The sun was setting in October, but we were watching Chargers, Raiders, or Chargers, Broncos, and I went, the sunshine of San Diego, I want to be there. And this guy, Chuck Muncie, I get chills thinking about, was such a great player.
Yeah. Running people over.
Yeah, and turned out to be such a great man.
Yeah,
you know?
Great man, great man.
Yeah, it's such a shame. 60 years old is just way too
and
young.
You see that little Band-Aid on his nose. There was a game where a play where he got hit and his helmet scraped the skin off his nose from the bridge down to the middle of his nose. And I remember him walking right by me, and his whole nose was shredded. And so that Band-Aid is like his hallmark sign, and he had that thing on there forever.
Yeah, Band-Aid and those glasses.
And those glasses.
Yeah, right on. Miles, it is such a pleasure to visit with you. Thank you so much.